and largest governments in the world cannot manage this issue, I don't think we're going to see it in this country or other parts of the rest of the world. Second, this is far beyond the scale of what you can do by changing your personal behavior. Being challenged to be catalysts of economic, political, social, cultural transformation. How do we reach beyond our personal impact? This is how we power the way we do things. To explain this, you have oil, gas, coal, and other. That whole section of other is drawn out and put in this graph over here on the right. That's broken down into hydroelectric, nuclear, biomass, and that tiny little blue wedge, which is wind and solar. And that's broken down further up there. Totally over here, you have about 270 millions of barrels per day of oil equivalent being used. And about 1.2 is coming from wind, solar. So, to explain this, you have oil, gas, coal, and other. That whole section of other is drawn out and put in this graph over here on the right. That's broken down into hydroelectric, nuclear, biomass, and that tiny little blue wedge, which is wind and solar. And that's broken down further up there. Totally over here, you have about 270 millions of barrels per day of oil equivalent being used. And about 1.2 is coming from wind, solar. So, well, one of the key things that I see here is the difference between easily controlled and centralized power versus distributed ecological power. And I want us to think about that both as the structure of our energy economy, but also the patterns that that starts to create in terms of what type of technology is considered efficient, what types of economic and ownership structures are considered efficient, and what types of communities are considered efficient. If our organizing principle for how we power our economy is easily controlled, mass-scale, industrial polluting energy that takes billions of dollars to get out of the ground and burn, who is going to have access in all of the economic activities that spur? Just as a reminder, all of the things that system are doing are not all that great. And then, of course, there's the climate piece. We are in the hottest year globally on record. It hasn't been finished yet, so we don't actually know if it's going to end up that way, but it's close. It's part of the hottest decade on record. This happened earlier this year. I don't know if you guys remember like what happened with the Titanic. This iceberg is basically heading in that general region of the world. It's 4 times the size of Manhattan. Greenland slips, over the next couple hundred years, we get sea levels raised about 20 feet. You know this stuff. Pakistan, you probably heard about this in the news. This is really, really significant. There was a point in time where 20% of the population of this country was dislocated. I think they've started sorting things out right now, but that's huge. And Russia. So this is within the last 6 to 8 months. All of these things are happening and are pretty significant.
1 in 4 of the world's prison inmates.
Have 41% of the world's military spending.
Have 1 in 4 children below the poverty line.
Have 19% unemployment for job seekers under 25.
Had 76% 4-year high school graduation rate for whites and less than 55% 4-year high school graduation rates for non-Asian minorities.
So for just a moment, I'd like everyone to close their eyes. Take a deep breath. This is the reality of where we are. It's complex, it's overwhelming, it's interconnected. We can do this. So if you want to open your eyes, go ahead. I really, really like this quote because it's so obvious. So here's the real question. What needs to change? What are we going to do? You're thinking about issues in silos. So you have all of these energy depletion issues, and we talk about various solutions to that problem, which some of us may not like, but are theoretically valid solutions to this problem. We talk about climate change. Again, another set of solutions that are, maybe not exactly what we would all like, but if you think about this problem alone, they might work. What are you seeing in the economy? We're going to bail out the systems that have been supporting us for a very long time, whether that's the automakers and banks or the housing sector or whatever. We're just going to keep pumping resources into that system because that's what we know how to do. And then this whole other social justice issue. A lot of different approaches to serving the needs of people whose needs aren't being met in a way that sees that as kind of a symptom, or that's the thing that we're targeting as opposed to the big picture. What if we took all of these things as one? Einstein is really intelligent, but the really key thing here is how do we rethink system principles? How do we rethink how the system is operating so that it doesn't look at these things as independent problems, but is trying to find an integrated ecological way to meet all of our needs? Sounds good to me, right? I mean, it just makes sense. The question here is, how are we going to do that? We've been told a story, and we keep teaching it actually. We've been told a story that we make a living and we sustain ourselves as a society by job creation, economic development, that basically means taking things of low value, like ecosystems and untrained laborers and things like that, and turning them into things of high value. The waste piece of that often isn't mentioned, but that's the story that we're basically told. Large corporations, nonprofit organizations that are doing good work give us employment so that we can meet our basic needs while doing all these other things that meet other people's basic needs, and all of the things that we've just seen are side effects or externalities. Here's the choice that's really before us. I don't know if you guys have seen or heard of this analogy of the metamorphosis from a caterpillar to a butterfly. What does a caterpillar do? It basically eats plants, grows and expands, and produces waste. That's what a caterpillar does. But at a certain point, that stops working. You can't keep having a caterpillar doing that. It just wouldn't function. And so the caterpillar at a certain stage goes into this existential crisis. It's a war between the organ systems and the tissues that are saying, I act like a caterpillar and I do things that do what a caterpillar knows how to do, which are breaking down and no longer functioning. And these tiny little centers are actually called imaginal cells that are sending out chemical and neurological signals that are saying, we need to start reorganizing. We need to start reorganizing to produce the wings and produce the little proboscis thing that sucks nectar and all of the things that a butterfly does. And the caterpillar part of the immune system actually attacks those things. So there's this conflict going on. But finally, the imaginal cells start linking up. And the caterpillar is a consumer, and the butterfly is a pollinator. Same plant, different functions. How do we start moving from a society that thinks like a caterpillar to a society that thinks like a butterfly? It's the same organism. It's not human nature. We can change. But it's a very, very different way of thinking and operating in how we meet our basic needs, how we make a living, how we run an economy, how politics works, all of those types of things. It's a reinvention, but it's based on exactly the same identity and materials. It's the same genetic code. We're not inadequate to this challenge. We've got it in us. We've got the collaboration, we've got the ingenuity, we've got all that. It's there.